Hey, it's Alicia from mobilitymastery.com, and today I want to talk about emotions and the body and the mind-body connection as it pertains to this physical container that we all carry around called the body. And I get a lot of questions from people about emotion getting stuck in the body. How do you move it out? Why does emotion get stuck in the body? And this particular video isn't going to dive into the whole aspect of the emotional component or storing trauma in the body or anything like that. I just want to connect your mind to your body and give you something you can try to maybe understand what I'm talking about in terms of how stuff gets stuck here generally. But basically, the body, your body, is like the container for everything that happens in your body-mind process, and that means emotions and sensations or feelings. So your body is holding and containing all of the feelings and sensations that you haven't maybe moved out, or I should say emotions and sensations. So to me, it's kind of like an equation: emotion plus sensation equals feelings. And feelings happen through the whole human being. So our heart, obviously, feelings, emotions, but the whole body is involved. Our mind is involved and the body is involved. So I started really looking at this from the perspective of reactivity, or what I feel on a textural level when I step on people. So the method that I do in my private practice is called Kinetix, and it involves stepping on people. And when I step on somebody, we are actually making contact with everything that's contained in their body, or maybe that body part, if you want to look at it like that. And so it elicits usually a response, a feeling response. And out of that may come emotion, but there's definitely sensation. So if you've done any kind of self-help fascial release, or if you've ever been to my office and worked with me in person, you're going to kind of know what I'm talking about, because the word I usually use to describe it is it's intense, right? It can feel intense to contact that fascial system, and we're also contacting the nervous system. So what's truly fascinating to me is we can move those feelings out of the body, creating a sense of openness, right? We're now an open container. We can have stuff moving through us instead of being full. So if you imagine, a mason jar, if it's full of stuff, you can't fit any more in it, right? And I actually believe the same thing is true with the body. And I think one of the main causes of like systemic tension, daily tension, and maybe even anxiety, a certain kind of anxiety, is coming from having a full container that has no more room. You don't have any more room to put anything in. And I think this is where we get into extreme overwhelm, just by, like, we have decision fatigue or overwhelm, having to let anything else in, right? Either let data in or make decisions based on what's happening in our lives, because we don't have any more space. So we can't put anything else in. So I love being able to move stuff out through the body instead of necessarily talking it out, or this is just I prefer to move it out of my body instead of sitting in talk therapy, for example, for years. Now, there's nothing against talk therapy. I think therapy can be extremely beneficial, and I've used it myself, and I've talked about that. But the whole thing of moving it out is you have to feel it. Doesn't mean it has to have a story attached to it. It doesn't mean you have to go into the emotion and stay there. It just means you have to feel it. So if you're feeling a lot of sensation, that counts. And if you're feeling sensation and emotion, great. So I want to maybe challenge you to do an experiment and use some kind of fascial release. Whether it's maybe the quads or the calves, those are always really great places to start for this, especially if you haven't done much fascial release, but even if you have. And instead of making your intention to release your fascia there, I want your intention this time to be about curiosity of what's in your container. And so that means placing weight on a foam roller, for example, but instead of immediately jumping into movement and being goal-oriented around releasing fascia, you get curious about the sensation you feel and maybe any emotion that arises with it. Now, I don't necessarily want you to go looking for emotion. I don't think it necessarily works that way, but whatever you do feel, allow it and then get curious about it. So the quads are a great place to do that because there's usually a lot of sensation in the quads. The calves, I think, are an amazing one. Whenever I do nervous system work with clients where we're kind of typing their nervous system, I always start with calves because I think it tends to hold our adrenaline response from the fight, flight, freeze response, maybe the flight portion. If our tendency is to run, then we might actually have unused adrenaline and whatever that fear response was stuck in our calves. So 2 great places to start, but you could use anything in the body. Upper body is good as well. So I want you to go do that and then share your experience below if you would. So for example, when I get my calves stepped on, it's the only body part that I don't like to get stepped on or to work on myself on a foam roller. I immediately start sweating, my heart starts pounding, I tighten up, I tense against it, right? And I start holding my breath, I stop breathing. So those are all really interesting, right? But I could go to a different body part and go, oh, that feels so good. Like when I get my quads done, it usually actually feels kind of good. So then when you go to actually do a fascial release routine, if you're working on, either optimization or maybe you have pain that you're trying to eliminate through self-help fascia release, use the first 30 seconds to a minute to actually feel what's contained in the body part you're releasing, and allow whatever feelings you have to happen. So it doesn't mean emotion. Feeling to me it includes sensation. So if it's purely sensation, great. But allow it, and that is actually what's going to move it out and free that container so you can put more in. And then, we really have to maintain this routine of moving it out on a daily basis. And you can do that through all kinds of ways: breathing, meditation, journaling, fascia release, body work, you name it. I personally love the physical ways to just move it out somatically on the sensation level, but find what works for you. So please share your takeaways below, and I would love to hear if this made sense to you, and especially if you've used fascia release, if you know what I'm talking about, then maybe share some of what you've discovered about yourself and that reactivity or the feelings that arise for you on even just a sensation level, because everybody's a little bit different. And I know sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, am I defective, or am I the only one that feels like this? Is there something wrong with me because it's so intense? But I assure you it's not. It's intense for just about everybody. And so if you share that below, then other people reading it aren't going to feel as alone, and we can support one another to take care of these bodies and containers that allow us to move through life. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, and you can join my email community and get some free resources and free coaching from me by email every week. We'll put the link to that in the description below, and I'll see you next time.